Good afternoon, my name is Gerard Heary. I'm a horticulturist here at the Arboretum Lifestyle and Garden Centre. And today we're going to talk to you about how to sow the perfect lawn. And as part of that, we're going to talk about preparation, general care of the lawn, and then aftercare for future years. What type of lawn? So you need to look at first what type of lawn you're going to have in your garden. You need to look at the traffic on the lawn. Is there kids in the garden? Is there animals running around the lawn? How often are you going to be on it? So there's different types of lawn seed. The old-fashioned lawn seeds was grade 1, 2 and 3. Nowadays they're broken up into different areas, and I'll speak about those a little bit later then, different types. So the luxury lawn would have been your original #1 grade grass seed mix, and that would be a very fine lawn. It'd be your golf course type lawn, your tennis court. And luxury lawn's velvety green, has a Wimbledon appearance, won't stand up to hard wear and tear. And it's going to need more feed, and it's going to need more care and attention. And it's a mix of brown top and chewing vescu. So they're very soft, very small grasses, and they can't handle much traffic over them. With luxury lawns, they're going to need to be cut more. You're going to have to feed them more often. So they're really only a lawn for looking at, for looking very well. So not a lawn for an area where there's kids or animals or high traffic. You get your #2 lawn then, which is utility lawn seed mix. #2 is a general purpose lawn seed. It will be the most commonly used one. That's for general wear and tear. So it's kids, for dogs, it's for mowing, it's for having picnics on the lawn. So it's for your general wear and tear. Withstands moderate neglect, as I said, stands up to children and pets constantly. Perfect lawn for outdoor living, more tolerant to droughts as well. The first one I talked about is not very good in drought area because it's a very luscious lawn, so it needs a lot of moisture, it needs a lot of care and attention. So #2 is your general purpose lawn. A lot of new lawn seeds out in the market now. So you have the short start shady lawn seeds. So people have different areas, they might have a shady area, a dry area, areas and banks or slopes, so they need something that's going to start off and take off wherever they're going to put it. So the short start lawn seeds are coated, and a coated lawn seed basically means that it has a little coating on the outside of the seed, and in that there's micronutrients, and there's a little coating on the outside that also retains moisture and just helps the plant take off quicker. So it says shady area will thrive in dry shady conditions, perfect for around buildings, trees and bushes, and improved drought tolerance, so it can handle an area. So anyone who has a lawn themselves will know that if you have a tree, it's always going to be drier underneath the tree because the roots are there, they're absorbing moisture out of it. So lawns will always tend to die away in that area, and they'll go brown, and you'll see them very first part of your lawn to go brown in a drought condition. So another one then is your fast acting lawn seed. Some people now just can't wait anymore for a lawn to grow, so they want to have it as soon as possible. They want to get in the ground and up within a few days. So the fast-acting lawn seeds actually grow within a 4 to 5 day period. Again, they're coated in the coating nutrients on the outside and the moisture retentive coat on the outside, and they take off much quicker. Sowing times then for seeds then, you have March and April into May and September, October. This is your main sowing time for your lawn because of the weather. At this time of year, you have showers, the soil is moist, and the soil is warming up as well. So the same in September, October. You always have this more showery time of year, it's a little bit wetter, and the soil is still warm at that stage of the year. The temperatures are going down, but the soil holds on to temperature and gradually loses it. So the best time to do it is now March, April, May, September, October. Preparation of the soil. This is the biggest key for setting your lawn up. The biggest factor in failure of a lawn or a lawn not growing right for you is the preparation. So you need to actually have a look at your site and see, is it stony, is it sandy, is it heavy wet soils, is it clay, is that crack, what type of soil have you got? So the first thing you need to do anyway is to get rid of your weeds off the lawn, off the area you're going to have your lawn in. So mark out your area. If it's a new house you're in, you need to spray it off. Now what you need to spray off your weeds with then is a glyphosate based weed killer. A glyphosate based weed killer is a weed killer that kills grass. Examples of glyphosate-based weed killers are your Roundup or Rambo. They're two good ones to use. And what these are is they're systemic weed killers. So if you spray it over your lawn or over your weeds, what will happen is that it lands on the weeds, gets absorbed into the plant, and then gets absorbed right down to the roots of the plant. These are inactive when they hit the soil. so it doesn't affect the soil at all. You can actually plant usually within 4 to 5 days of using these weed killers on the lawn. Now what I would recommend if you are planting a lawn is that you spray off your weeds first, let them die away, and actually turn the soil over then and leave it for another week or so. And any new weeds then will start to re-emerge then again. And when you see new weeds emerging, let them get to a first set of true leaves and spray them off again. So that way you're killing off most of the weeds, practically all the weeds in your lawn. So the biggest mistake is actually going out, rotivating your lawn, and then any seeds that have been dormant there get thrown up again, they get a bit of heat and light and they take off in amongst your lawn. So you want to get rid of all your weeds to start off with. Preparation of the soil then is the next key. So once your weeds are gone, you need to get your soil dug up. So that can be done with either using a rotavator, as in the picture here. You can do it by hand if it's in a small area, digging with a fork, working it up, and or you can get a plough if it's a large area, a plough or a tiller in. You're going to have to remove all stones from the area. So all size stones taken out of it, rake them off, take away any bits of sod or any weeds that are left on it, and use a fine rake. So a very fine rake, and bring it to a fine tilt. And what a fine tilt is, a lot of people ask what a fine tilt is. A fine tilt is basically just an area of soil with no stones in it, or very small stones in soil that you can plant seeds in. So basically a soft seed bed. You want to dig the area 6 to 8 inches deep for good root growth. Grass doesn't actually need a big deep area to grow in, so about 6 to 8 inches is plenty to get a grass sod growing on top of it. So after you have the stones taken out, you need to level it out. With that then you want to rake it there. You can use, if it's a small enough area, you can actually get a long board and bring a board along it and try and get the lawn level. It's very important your lawn be level, because you don't want humps and hollows in the lawn, particularly when you're cutting it with a mower afterwards. You're going to end up with problems. Once the soil then is stones out, when you have it raked to a fine tilt, you need to firm it down. So firming it down can be done either by feet, and it's something which is often heard called the rain dance, which is basically you're moving along through your lawn, feet together, and you're just tapping your way through the lawn then, firming it down. Alternatively, you can get a roller. Rollers are very easily got these days. And like so, this is a metal roller here, and it's not heavy enough as it is on its own, so you can actually open up and pour water into them, and that'll give it extra weight to it. So you want to firm off the soil then with your rollers or your walking, and then next thing you need to look at then is putting your fertilizer on it. So what we always recommend here is Grow More. Grow More is a very good fertilizer to use. It's a good general purpose fertilizer, and it can be used for all sorts of things in the garden there. It's nice balanced fertilizer, 777. With this you would apply that 56 grams per square metre throughout your new lawn area, and usually that's done 7 days prior to sowing your lawn. So once that's done, then you come to your sowing your seed. So wait for a good day. Soil needs to be moist when you sow your seed. Don't sow it on a very hot or very warm day, because the seed will actually dry up very quickly. Application rate for your lawn seeds then is at 33 grams per square metre. Lawn seed. Now, big mistake people make sowing lawns is that they sow them too thick. You're sprinkling seeds over and they think that doesn't look thick enough, and they go back and they throw more over it. It's actually one of the big mistakes to make. What will happen is the seeds that are gathered together, clustered together, will actually start to rot. So you'll end up with bare patches in the lawn. So sprinkle them very lightly over the lawn. Now the way of sprinkling your lawn seeds is not just going out and just standing in one area and throwing them. You want to do it usually split into 4 areas. So you work your way up the lawn, sprinkling, work your way back down the area, sprinkling the opposite direction, and then you work your way across it, sprinkling in both directions. So that way you're covering over the whole lawn. And then after you do that, you rake your seeds gently into the lawn. So just a light, gentle rake through it. And what you can do after that then is empty the water out of your roller and just give it a very light rolling back over the lawn. Germination of the seeds, depending on the type of seed, then can take between, for the sure start, quick lawn seeds, 5 days. For normal grass seeds in normal conditions, would take between about 10 to 14 days. Now germination is going to depend too on birds. You want to keep birds off the lawn. I should have mentioned that earlier. So by doing that, people often use old videotapes to stretch them over the lawn to make a little rattling noise, or plastic bags or something. But in general, birds aren't a huge problem, because once you rake the lawn seed gently into it and roll it, a lot of seed gets covered in the lawn, covered in the soil, so it doesn't, the birds don't see it. As I said, we have the fast started ones there, coated for improvement of germination, faster coverage, ideal for overseeding and repairs, buffers germinating seed against stress and bird attack, and the fastest way to a thick, luscious green lawn. So like I say, they're covered in an outer coating. That helps retain moisture and they grow quicker. When you have to take care of new lawns, then watering is the main key. So if it's a small lawn, you can actually do it over a small area with a hose pipe and with a fine spray. What you don't want to do is wash the lawn seed away. So just a very fine spray over the lawn. Alternatively, like in the picture here, you can use a sprinkler system. Now again, they have to be quite fine because you don't want to wash the lawn away. And lawns need to be kept constantly moist. A new lawn needs to be kept constantly moist. If you leave it for 2 days and you get warm weather, the seeds are going to dry up and scorch very easily, so the seed aren't going to take. So very important to keep them moist. And that's again the reason why this time of year is a good time to sow it, because you're going to get a lot of showers. Usually in April and May you get quite a lot of showers, and they'll keep the soil moist. So taking care of new lawns, do not apply lawn weed feed moss killers to new lawns. Some people plant a new lawn and 3 or 4 months later they're wanting to put on these weed feed moss killers. Weed feed moss killer will actually kill a fresh young lawn. The lawn needs to produce a sod first and be there for usually 6 to 8 months and have a well-established sod before you can start using weed feed moss killers. Now moss shouldn't be a problem if the preparation stage is right, if you got the soil dug and if you have good drainage on the site. Now the thing is as well, what it does is it'll scorch them and damage them. Now it won't kill it completely, but it will set it back a lot. Common problems then for your lawn, main problems being moss. It's one of the biggest questions that come into the garden centre here with us. I've moss in my lawn, what do I do? How do I get rid of the moss? Moss is always a sign of poor drainage, of shade, cutting too low and not feeding. Drainage, as I say, should be established and sorted out in the very first instance of setting up a new lawn. So that can be down to putting in land drains if a very wet area, or even digging in grit or sand into a lawn just to try and lighten the soil a little bit. Shade can be overcome now with the likes of the fast-acting shade lawn seeds. You can plant those in shady areas. Cutting too low then is a big problem here in this country. People like to have what they call a golf course lawn. They tend to cut them low and skim them to the ground. What that does then is it opens up the soil to the light, and moss can grow in it then, and weeds can take over as well. So the lawn should always be left a few inches high, and I know it doesn't look the best when you're walking or anything, but from a distance, the lawn looks much better like that. And what that does then is suppresses the moss. The moss can't get the room to grow once the grass is above, and suppresses weeds too. So here in this country, say, we have this tendency of cutting the lawn right down to the bare minimal, trying to have a nice tight lawn. Moss removal then, there's 2 main ways of doing it, is scarifying. You can hire a scarifying machine. What that does is spinning blades, and it tears up the moss out of the lawn, tears up any old thatch. At this time of year, it's a good time for doing it now, usually in the spring. So a lot of thatch is built up from last year. A lot of moss was built up over the winter, particularly after a warm, mild winter that we had. So you want to remove that thatch. You can hire these machines in hire shops, or you can buy them as well. And usually once a year is enough to do scarifying the lawn, because it is quite vicious on a lawn. What it does is it tears up the top couple of inches of a lawn, aerates as well, lets a little bit of air into it, and removes that moss. Alternatively, there is the old-fashioned way. This is what you call a lawn rake or a moss rake. And this is a rake. Now it's a back-breaking job, but it is a very good tool for removing moss from a lawn. Say if you already have an established lawn and you've used your lawn weed feeding moss killer. Most people think when you use lawn weed feeding moss killer, that's it, you sprinkle it on, it kills your moss, kills your weeds, your lawn's going to be fantastic. You will have to actually physically remove the moss from the lawn. So the moss will die within 2 days of applying the lawn weed feeding moss killer, but the moss then will have to be physically removed from that lawn. So the weeds will die away naturally themselves anyway once the weed killer hits them. And the grass then, once the moss is taken away, the lawn will look a little bit sparse and a little bit low on grass, but it will actually recover after time. And you can reseed it as well. Weeds are another problem. Now again, weeds aren't so much a problem in established lawns if they're maintained right. If you have a very short lawn, like I was saying earlier, the weeds will take over quite readily and quite quickly. If your lawn is left a little bit longer, the weeds won't have a chance to grow in it. New lawns will have a lot of weeds in them when they're planted, but as you're mowing a new lawn, a lot of those perennial weeds will eventually get worn down and get taken away. It's the likes of dandelions and docks and things like that are the ones that will stay into and will actually become problems. So the main ways of getting in is from not feeding your lawn. Weeds will always grow better in actually hungry lawns or starved lawns. Cutting grass too low and seeds blown in from neighbour's garden. So if you can have the finest lawn in the country, but if your neighbour is not keeping their lawn up to scratch or their area up to scratch, the seeds can blow in. And obviously birds as well can drop seeds too. So there are always seeds making their way into your lawn somehow. Weed removal then can be done manually. You can use a little tool to take out docks, docks and dandelions, which will take the root out of them, or spot spray them, or you will get a lawn weed killer. Now the difference between a lawn weed killer and spot spraying is lawn weed killers are specifically for lawns. They won't kill grass. So like this high-trawl one here, it's for clover lawn. You will get just a general purpose high-trawl as well. These won't kill the grass, but they kill any broadleaf weeds in the lawn. So you want to keep this away from any plants in your garden or anything around flower beds around the edge of it. It'll kill everything bar grass. So it's a very good one to use. You can use it in a knapsack sprayer, or you can mix it up in a watering can, and you get a watering bar and you can go up and down and water your lawn with it. Usually in about a week or so you'll see the weeds starting to die back away. Once the weeds die away, then that leaves room for your grass to start to move in again and take over the spot the weeds were in. Alternatively, if you haven't got much weeds in the lawn, you can do what's called spot treatment. And that will be again Roundup or Rambo. You have to be very careful with this because this will kill the grass in the lawn. So by spot treatments, what you mean is you mix up a small little bit in a little pot or in a little jar or tub. You have a little water, you have a little paintbrush, and just dip a little paintbrush in it and actually give it directly to the weeds in the lawn, not getting it on the grass in the lawn. So that's called spot treatment. Now that's only for if you have a small area, because your back will be broken if you're doing a whole lawn with spot treatment each weed in the lawn. But that's very effective for removing the small amount of weeds in the lawn. And for any organic growers, we do have an organic weed killer as well. This is totally organic weed killer. It's acetic acid, and what that does is it actually burns the plants, and it won't stay in the soil. Now it will kill grass as well, so you have to be careful. It's non-selective, but it's an organic one. So a lot of people nowadays have moved to the organic, and they don't want to be using chemicals or anything around the house or around where there's animals. But this is totally safe to use with their children and animals, and it doesn't affect the soil in any way afterwards. Scorching is another issue on the lawn, and coming into summer months, it's a big problem. If you're on a dry, sandy site, scorch is going to happen very quickly. It can happen too if you're overfeeding the plants. Another main issue as well is when you apply lawn weed feed moss killer, it needs to rain within 4 to 5 days after applying it. Because what will happen if it doesn't is it'll burn the lawn. So you need to know there's rain coming within a few days after applying it. If there's not rain coming, you'll actually need to water it yourself, because it'll burn the lawn, it'll scorch it right back down to the ground. You end up with huge yellow patches and brown patches, and that'll have to be raked away then and let new grass emerge after that. But it'll set your lawn back by a few weeks. Planting close to trees and hedges and cutting grass too short again is another problem with scorching, causing scorching in lawns. So ways to stop scorching then would be to raise the blades on your lawnmower, water during dry spells, as I said, and apply fertiliser when rain is expected. As you probably noticed, a team going through this, raising your lawnmower blades can solve a lot of problems in lawns. And by raising it by even one notch, just bringing it up a little bit higher, it can save a lot of problems. By raising it, you see, it's going to stop light getting in, as I say, and by stopping light getting in, you want to stop your lawn drying out. It's giving a shady area so that the sun is not getting in and scorching the top of the soil, so the soil isn't losing the moisture as quickly. So it's very important to go out and raise your blades there. Feeding from March to September with weed feed and moss killers. Mow your lawns on a regular basis and water during dry spells.